Edradour, Edradour, the smallest distillery in Scotland. You've heard of the 16 men of Tane? Well, these boys, 3. Now, I'll tell you, they work 5 or 6 times as hard as the blokes up the hill in Tane. Glenmorangie's distillery in Tane. But they don't. They have tiny little still. It's beautiful. And they produce about as much whiskey in a year as several distilleries produce in a day. It's a very hard whiskey to get hold of because it is so rare, and we've got it. So I just can't wait to taste this whiskey. Brad and I travelled to Edradour years ago, about 5 years ago. We had a good walk around, but it was just so tiny. Beautiful place, but just so tiny, tucked up in the hills, in the highlands, and a beautiful little glen, but impossible to get near to the tasting room. It was just, everything there is kind of miniature, and busloads of German tourists made it impossible to get anywhere near it. So we've very patiently waited to get hold of some. We finally got it, and here it is. So I hope it lives up to the hype. Let's see. So this is the Edradour 10-year-old. It's nicely packaged in a bottle resembling the shape of the still. And if you close your eyes a bit and squint, you can kind of imagine how the still looks. Typical packaging, single malt whiskey, tin foil, and a cork. Okay, well, that's a good start. Straight away, it's ticked Andy's I like it box because it's Oloroso sherry. You can see that in the colour with the bronze and some really nice lifted, not Christmas cake, but stewed fruits. Now they say candied almond, and I don't know if it's because I've said it, but boom, it's really in my head. Have you ever had those almonds and they're coated in the white lolly candy? Yeah, it's really like that, kind of like cool mint as well. So I'm getting a real confectionery, a real confectionery nose. Not to say the whiskey's sweet, I'm only describing some of the smells I'm getting and what those smells remind me of. Well, okay. Multi-layered is the answer to that. I was going to say it's a little bit short in that the flavour was really quite intense at the front of the mouth, the first taste. You get a lot of really good, rich dried fruits, prune particularly, maybe dried apricots, and then there was kind of like I was waiting for the next wave, and it's like, oh, it's not going to come, so I'll say something. But then just as I was about to say something, the next wave came in with this rich butterscotch and intense sherry. Oh, gee, that's quite good. The other thing about this whiskey is the breadth of the cut. It's perhaps because it is such a small still. It's not a particularly narrow whiskey, and I find this difficult to explain. without tasting the whiskey, but you do get a broader mouthfeel, which isn't necessarily a good thing, which is not to say it's a bad thing either. But when I talk about a clean whiskey, it's a very sharp and distinct profile in the palate. This has a lot more breadth. You get some sharpness, but you also get more of a creaminess and a butteriness. Sounds nice, and to be honest, it tastes great. But I don't, probably not what a whiskey purist would be after in terms of the cut of the still. That said, I think this has got a really nice balance of the fruit. There's like it's not sweet because there's kind of like an underlying citrus character coming through too, and you get the creamy butteriness as well as some of the fine vanilla characters coming, cutting and giving you the fineness. So it's, gosh, that's a hard whiskey to describe. It's enjoyable. It's rare. This is a whiskey you've got to have in your collection. I'm so glad I've finally got it in mine. Try it yourself. Grab one to drink and one to keep, because it's a wee bit special. And I hope you enjoy it. And oh, thank God for the GFC. Otherwise, this would never have come to this country. So yeah, sometimes be careful what you wish for, because if you love your single malt whiskies down under, we can finally get some of this off the Yanks and the Europeans. Cheers.